lecture on how agriculture will be decarbonised remains open for further debate.
Thomas Cooney, the chairman of the IFA's Environment and Rural Affairs Committee, joins us now. Thomas, thanks for coming in to us.
Thanks, Claire.
Thomas, last week the Oireachtas Committee on Climate Action produced their recommendations for Ireland on tackling climate change, and with a specific section on agriculture. And although I suppose in the report they said that this time around they wouldn't be looking at a carbon tax on agriculture, but in the long term, Thomas, is that something that farmers need to be seriously concerned about or considering?
I don't think so, because I don't think it would contribute anything to reducing overall global emissions, because we're one of the most sustainable places in the world to produce beef and dairy. Our dairy farmers are the most carbon efficient in Europe. Our beef farmers are in the top 5. There's very little difference between 1 and 5. I think common sense prevailed at the Oireachtas Committee last week, where they took on board the recommendations of the Teagasc roadmap for climate roadmap. And there's 28 measures in that, and they see that as the way to go forward, because putting a carbon tax and reducing production in Ireland would only encourage production in less carbon efficient countries such as South America and Brazil and Argentina and places like that, and would contribute to overall global emissions. And I think the approach that they took, recommending the adaptation of the Teagasc climate roadmap, is a more sensible approach, because we are a sector with a plan, and it has the potential to put money into farmers' pockets and to reduce emissions at the same time.
And Thomas, just on the Teagasc mitigation plan, with the 28 measures to reduce or to enhance agricultural mitigation, so you're looking at improved breeding strategies, changing fertiliser types, slurry spread and land use for carbon sequestration, improved pasture management. How far along are farmers on those types of practices at the moment, and what about funding for pushing through on that roadmap?
Yeah, there is a number of those measures being done through the KT programme, through the GLOS programme. 50,000 farmers in the GLOS scheme at the moment. We have our own IFA Smart Farming initiative, which is aimed at reducing costs, reducing emissions. There's a direct link between the two, and efficiency at farm level, increasing profitability, driving down emissions. But going forward, we need a well-funded CAP, and we have the CAP reform coming up, and there is talk of a 5% cut, which would equate to 100 million. We need a well-funded rural development scheme going forward, because we need a like a REPS type scheme, where there's 10,000 per farm, and that's what IFA policy is. And that won't come if we have an overall cut in the CAP budget. Government contribution does need to be increased as well, and it makes sense. It makes sense for government and the EU to spend the money on this, and get the investment in farm, drive down emissions, and not for Ireland to be paying fines. It's better to put the money into farmers' pockets and encourage all the other renewables incentives like solar and AD.
Yeah, just on that, Thomas, energy efficiency is highlighted particularly in the report, and about the move away from fossil fuels towards more biofuels or anaerobic digestion, as you mentioned there. But yet, there have been delays with the opening of the support scheme for renewable heat. The grant was announced last year. The second phase was meant to be announced earlier this year. Now, the Department of Climate Action is pushing it back maybe till the middle of the year. So how serious is the government about bringing in anaerobic digestion as a possible solution to climate mitigation on the agricultural side?
Well, the fact that it's recommended in this report, Oireachtas report, is good. Minister Bruton will be doing up a whole of government report in the next month or so, and it's going to be taken from the recommendations of the Oireachtas report. We had him in at our AGM. We put all those issues to him for the need to develop farm scale and community-based renewables. AD will probably be community-based. We need farm scale solar, all that sort of stuff. There is efficiencies can be done at farm level. There is some grants there, but they need to be increased as well, and we need to get uptake on that, because again, the government would be better spending the money on that than it going off to Europe and fines. And that's what is going to happen. Like post 2020, if we don't hit our targets, and if we're seen to be spending the money and investing in farm businesses, that's the only way that it can be done. We are the only sector that has a plan. There's no other. We have emissions spiraling out of control in transport. There's no plan there.
Aviation as well, as we saw this week.
Aviation as well. We are a sector with a plan, but we need investment. We need government investment. It will help to sustain farmers on the farms as well. If they can make money from solar or AD, it will help sustain their farm businesses as well.
Thomas, as well, this week the government announced a fund of $3 million to be made available for the purchase and operation of drones to survey illegal dumping. You've raised some concerns on the prosecution side.
Yeah,
so how could this fund be best used to target the culprits?
The fund is welcomed, and we had been calling. We had a big campaign there post Christmas, and we mentioned it to the minister as well, Minister Bruton, when we had him in at our AGM. It was another thing. We have follow up meetings with the department on that as well. But we need prosecutions. We need people to be made an example. We're getting calls from all over Ireland where farmers are having literally trailer loads of rubbish dumped in their fields. There needs to be people made an example of, and a hefty fine put on them and made an example of, to use them as a deterrent. The drones will help to catch them, and the other enforcement measures, and hopefully there will be more boots on the ground as well. And it's all welcome, but we need prosecutions and we need people to be made an example. And we want the government to publish a list of what prosecutions that they have. That's what we haven't got that yet of them.
And Thomas, there also is a public consultation on the nitrates derogation at the moment that's underway. How concerned should farmers be about that, and how important is it for them to take an active stance and to voice their opinions?
Yeah, well, I think farmers have taken a fairly active stance. They've spent over $2 billion in the last 10 years upgrading their farms, let it be slurry storage, nutrient management planning. We have 7,000 farms in the derogation. It's important that the derogation is protected going forward. And we will be doing everything to ensure that we do get the derogation renewed again. This is only a review of the derogation. There will be a full nitrates review in 2 years' time, where we hope to get the derogation renewed for a further 4 years. And so hopefully farmers won't be penalised for they're doing the right thing.
Okay, and finally, Thomas, we're out of time, but I still have to ask you. You have recently put your name forward for the deputy presidency of the IFA. Now we are a number of months out from the election, but why did you put your hat in the ring, and what are the priorities and changes that you intend to campaign on? I
put my name forward because I felt I've enjoyed delivering over the last couple of years. We did get 700,000 off the Department of the Environment there for waste hire management. We got the derogation renewed. We had the likes of the litter campaign, the delivery on the Oireachtas climate report, where the Citizens Assembly recommendations were. But I feel that's not enough. I feel I want to deliver more for the organisation. I want to be part of an organisation. I want to put pride back into the jersey, to the IFA jersey again. I want to be part of an organisation that campaigns on the streets, that organises tractorcades, that stands outside of the factory gates and delivers for farmers and delivers a sustainable income for farmers going forward.
Thomas, I'm sure we'll have you back in on the campaign trail over the coming months, so thanks for joining us.